Hello and welcome to Northern Lights. This is a new online chat show focusing on football in the north of Scotland and the northeast. My name is Martin Johnston, and each week I'll be joined by a host of well-known names from North football, both past and present. Just a few guys reminiscing about the good old days and from time to time giving a distanced opinion on the modern game. A wee bit like Soccer AM meets the Antique Roadshow. For the first show, we'll make the trip across the Keswick Bridge to join up with two administration stalwarts and a footballing legend. Our first guest has a wealth of experience in the North game. He's a former president of the Scottish Schools FA, secretary of the Scottish Schools FA International Board, a former youth coach at Ross County, and a former assistant manager at Clachnacudden. He's had spells as secretary of the North of Scotland FA and the North Caledonian FA. He's a former development manager of the Highland Football Academy, and his current position is secretary of the Scottish Highland Football League. Welcome, Rod Houston.
Thanks, Martin. That was a hell of a long story. That's a 15 minutes used up.
Well, that's it. I was going to say, Rod, is when you type the letters HO into your computer, does a predictive text come up with Houston or honoraria first?
No comment.
Moving swiftly on, our second guest this evening, we're staying on the administration theme. This gentleman is synonymous with Ross County Football Club. Having first sold programmes for the club when they played Rangers in a Scottish Cup tie back in 1966, he remains with County some 54 years later in an ambassadorial role. He was, of course, club secretary for a large proportion of that time, as well as being a former Highland League president and an honorary life member of the North of Scotland FA. Of course, his dynasty still continues at Victoria Park in the form of his daughter Laura, who has taken on the mantle of club secretary. Gentlemen, please welcome Donnie MacBean.
Round of applause. He should get a
Donnie, legend.
Donnie, of course, your Highland League presidency came to a rather premature and abrupt end, did it not?
It did, certainly did, yes.
Obviously, this is due to the fact that County gained admission to the Scottish League after your first term of office. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So who took over from you? Can you remember?
Sorry?
Can you remember who took over you as president of the Highland League?
Yes, Alan McRae.
I wonder what happened to him, eh?
I don't know. He didn't listen to me. I was trying to teach him.
Our third guest this evening, folks, is someone who was voted to be Ross County's all-time cult hero on an online poll by the BBC Sports Football Focus viewers. Having joined the club as a Ross 17-year-old and being farmed out to the local North Caledonian League, he spent 14 years with the Dingwall club as a player, interrupted only by one season at Elgin City in 89-90. After leaving County in 1999, he then spent 6 seasons with Brora Rangers, 2 of which he was manager. He ended his playing career back in the North Caledonian League with Bonner Bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Billy Ferries.
Thank you.
North legend. many medals over the years, Billy?
A few in the later part, right in our
Yep.
part, and quite a few years that we didn't win anything, but
you
got a reward later on. So
Have you got all your trophies and medals in a cabinet?
I've got the medals on a wall and a wee plaque. Yes. All
In a
7 of them.
cabinet, no.
Not in a cabinet. There's no enough for that.
You
No.
know, get a cabinet maker to put up a cabinet for you. Nobody's in the business of making cabinets, no.
If I win some more, I could maybe find one.
I'm trying to give Ferry's Kitchens a plug here for you, boy.
Cheers.
Finally, by no means least, each week I'm hoping to be joined by a resident journalist. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody this week, so we've got fellow Rother's-Loon, Dave Edwards. Dave is a former goalkeeper, and he hung up his gloves and swapped them for notepad and pen, and has seen service as a journalist with the likes of the Press and Journal and as a broadcaster with Murrayfirth Radio. I believe Dave is now known in the business as a freelance journalist, which basically means in layman's terms, unemployable. Welcome, Dave. Dave, I just wanted to touch. I just wanted to touch very briefly on your time as a broadcaster with Murray Firth Radio. Was there not an incident at Telford Street where the radio company were fined over
Yes, there
something you did?
There certainly was, Martin. It was a Scottish Cup tie. It was Caledonian against what was it, Airdrie, if I remember rightly, in the Scottish Cup, and it went to penalty shootout. And I tried to phone the station at the end of extra time and said, "Look, it's going to penalties. Can we do it?" And I couldn't get anyone, so I thought, well, we'll do it anyway. And went to penalties. Cali won, an excellent win in penalties, and just a couple of weeks later, Murray Firth was fined £1,000 for breaking the broadcasting rights, and it was all my fault, apparently.
Oh well, so that cost you a half week's wages then.
Murray Firth Radio got a fiver once for going from Wick to Methil in East Fife to watch Ross County actually play in the Scottish Cup replay. But I remember rightly, young Chris Somerville got sent off after about 5 minutes. County got beat. I got home in the 4 in the morning, and Murray Firth Radio sent me a cheque for £5. I should have framed it. It's the only time I ever got expenses.
Would that have been Alloa, Dave?
Eh?
Was that not an Alloa?
No, it was Methil and Fife, I remember.
I remember playing East Fife, Donnie, didn't we? Was there not eruptions after the game?
You're saying eruptions after the game? Did they find out Dave got a fiver?
It was all over Dave's fiver, but I can't remember what happened. But there were serious people trying to get into their dressing room at the end of the game for some reason. The other players and that. My memory, I think Steve Archibald was the manager. That be right?
Oh, can't remember.
Well, he managed East Fife for a spell. I know that.
Yeah, well, that could well be the game then. There was real hassle after the game.
He wasn't Jack Nicklaus when it came to losing graciously.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Right, guys. I just want to kick things off by saying, obviously, you all look to be in good health. Obviously, this lockdown is causing a few problems, to say the least. You're managing your daily routine, everybody? Donnie?
No, I'm up in the morning, out for a walk with the wife, back into the garden, and that's it. My daughter's name's Fiona, by the way.
We're not calling her Laura.
I do have a Laura. But, well, Fiona is taking responsibility and keeping us in check, and we've got in-laws and they're in their 90s, so she's down doing their messages, and I haven't seen them since the lockdown. So,
oh well, I'll have to do a bit of grovelling and apologies to Fiona next time I see her at Hampden for a meeting. Rod,
yeah,
the whole thing caused a premature ending to the season.
It did, but I think the Highland League made the right decision for the Highland League in the circumstances it was in. But the work hasn't stopped. Graham Wilson, the assistant secretary, have been wrapping up the season, but as you'll have seen in the press in the last week, there's quite a lot of stuff flying around in a wider context that the Highland League's involved in. So there's plenty to be doing. And between that and the garden and very lucky, 2 minutes out the door and we're on the lower slopes of Benbraggie and the forests there. So it's great for a stroll. So I think we're very lucky living where we do in these circumstances. We can still get a sense of out and about. I would hate to be somebody stuck in a flat in a city just now.
Right decision, Dave. Is a general concession out there that the Highland League made the right call?
I think the Highland League led the way, actually, Martin. I think it was a good call to name Brora Rangers as champions. For once in 10 years, I got my tip right at the start of the season. I tipped Brora to win the league. First time in a decade I've done that. And I think they were worthy champions because they were streets ahead of anybody else. Fraser would have pushed them hard and may have pushed them hard towards the end of the season. But I think there was only going to be one winner, and that was Brora Rangers.
You need to remember that it was Fraserburgh that proposed to be champions, which I thought was sporting credibility, big time.
Yeah.
it was very much a unanimous decision.
You would know. You weren't at the meeting, but you would know.
Yeah.
Billy, obviously you had a spell at Brora. A lot of good friends, memories up there.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, it's honestly a great wee club. You know, when I was there, it wasn't, well, we were sort of more like bottom of the league. Although I think the one season, myself and Big Herch, my mate Herch, we got them to, I think, 6th equal, and we were paying boys £4 a week. So, but honestly, there's so many great people up there, and for all the hard times they've been through, it's fantastic to see them getting success now. And you know, and I meet Rod at the games, and I go to as many games as I can, and I'm absolutely delighted for them. It's fantastic, like, you know, great people.
And the whole reconstruction thing, gents, Dave, I'll maybe bring you in there. That obviously there's word that there's a possibility that maybe Kelty and Brora will get an opportunity to step up into the SPFL. Your thoughts on that?
I think it would be the right thing to do. Expand the leagues, take in Kelty and Brora Rangers, and because we're not going to be able to have the playoffs. And I think these two teams are worthy of their place in the senior leagues, and I'd be delighted to see both of them compete next season.
Rod, does that pave the way for the Highland League to open up below?
Well, we've already been working on it for nearly 2 years in collaboration with the North Cali League. And like Billy, I have a bit of knowledge in North Cali League. We've been around it in our days. It's got a lot to commend it. But it takes time to get the ducks in a row in these things, because it's a big ask for them. The North Region Junior FA are interested as well, and it took them longer to come round to the idea. And our strategy all along to create a 6th tier below the Highland League was to give any organisation that might be interested time just to come to its own terms on the thing, rather than force it. And I think that's helped the juniors particularly. I'd be astonished if the North Cali wasn't officially part of Tier 6 in the next season, whatever next season's going to hold. There are so many unknowns at the moment, but I think the North Cali will be there.
My only experience of the North Caledonia League was back in my days as a match official, when you maybe once or twice a season maybe got opportunity to referee a side in either the North of Scotland Cup or Gillespie in the qualifying cup. But obviously it's an integral part of the game up in the North of Scotland, Donnie.
Oh, absolutely, yes. The only thing about you know, the pressure that's on even Brora going up in the Highland League clubs is with the club licensing, the bar keeps getting moved higher all the time, and it can be quite expensive. But I know Rob's got his eye on the ball, so Rod will sort it.
Oh, thanks, Donnie. No pressure. I think the important thing is that it allows a club in the North Cali area who wants to try and progress and become licensed and what have you. What it means is we're not blocking the opportunity for clubs to progress if they want to. Nobody's going to make a club move in that sense, but it's important if a club wants to do that it does that. I mean, I think Cove Rangers are a classic example of it. If you look at Cove over the last 30 years or so, they started as what, the amateurs in Aberdeen?
Yeah.
And then the juniors decided they wanted to get ambition, got into Highland League, became a powerful force in the Highland League, saw the opportunity, tried to get into Scottish League in the old election system, it didn't work. Pyramid comes along, chapped the door twice, went through the door at the 3rd time of asking. So it shows you if a club has the ambition and the wherewithal, that the opportunity exists for them to rise through it. After that, it's entirely up to the club.
A lot of this will resonate with you, Donnie, obviously, having gone through the step up from Highland League to the Scottish League back in the 90s. You've come a long way since my trips up as a referee, and before that with Rothus. Hardly recognise the place now. I remember there used to be that big wooden boardroom up in the corner where you used to go up the stairs. And there was a lot of characters. I think, Dave, you were touching on that earlier on about characters at Dingwall in the past.
I'll throw one name at you three guys. If I said the word Davy Hamilton, what does that mean to you? Two Ross County legends and Rod. Davy was such a character, and what a nice man he was, and he was Ross County to many people.
I was thinking about him today. funnily enough, when I was thinking about this this thing this evening, funny how Davy Hamilton came to mind.
Yeah, very, very popular, very popular. Because for those that don't know, he was deaf and dumb from when he was 5 years old, and went to Edinburgh for schooling, and came back, and he was a goalkeeper, he was a referee, which was good being deaf, and he was a bit of a boxer.
Do you know something, Donnie? He was my favourite guy ever at Ross County. He was a fantastic guy, and he certainly wasn't damn. He was so aware of what was going on and so clever. A brilliant dancer, by the way. He would get vibes off the floor when he was dancing. And I remember, Davey, when I was 5 years old, I used to go watch support Ross County. And I remember being, you know, we'd all, as kids, you'd run in front of the stand and David come running out, going, whoa, and chase you out of the way. And I was terrified of him, absolutely terrified of him. And then to meet him 17 years later, and he became one of my best friends. He always sat beside me in the bus because he liked whiskey, and I would always have whiskey in my flask. And what's that mean to you, Donnie? See, if you asked him what he wanted to drink, he would go like that. And what he was saying was he wanted a low flyer, he wanted a grouse.
I certainly remember him. I remember him when I was refereeing, because you know, as a mute, but you certainly heard him if he didn't agree with your decision. And you know, God forbid, if you were sitting in the stand behind, where the old dugouts were in the front of the wooden stand, if you're sitting in the stand and you didn't know about him, you certainly knew about him after the game was finished. But you know what, I was saying to Dave earlier, that he always, you know, when you arrived, he patted you in the shoulder, and he went to be your friend, and what a friendly, outgoing guy he was, and that's part of the Ross County Highland League sort of family sort of thing that the whole thing has, and that, to be fair, has lost a wee bit in the Scottish League, I would say, Donnie.
Oh, absolutely. The Scottish League is friendly and is very business-like compared to what we used to be.
Yeah.
You know? And
I don't think Scottish League boardrooms, having seen them as in my match delegate and stuff, they're not quite as couthy as Highland League boardrooms, where if you go in and you're not driving, you're not quite sure when you'll get out again. Whereas there's more often a drive to get down the road or up the road from a Scottish League boardroom.
No,
but there's still plenty of characters around the Highland League, mercifully. And Davy Hamilton's a great sort of example of how clubs give a framework to people's lives. And people forget sometimes, and certainly in all this stir we have in Scottish football, they forget the importance of clubs for people's lives, the role clubs play in the lives of people, and give them a framework to their week, indeed their year.
Yeah, some fantastic times obviously at Ross County leading up to the Scottish League as well. I was actually looking back, Billy, I was involved at a game where you scored 2 goals in a minute, Scottish Cup tie against St Cuthbert Wanderers.
Ah, right, yes, I remember that game.
There's a YouTube video going around of that game, and in the stand you can see the late Maurice Newton, who's presiding over things. He must have been a bit of a character in the boardroom, was he, Donnie?
He certainly was. Probably he was a bit quieter at Dingle than he was when he was in the SFA outings.
I just thought he was a big individual, and he appeared to have a big character.
Yes, he certainly was. Yeah. Yes. He,
just to enlighten you, Dave, that was the game that
13-0.
It was 11-0.
11-0.
It was interesting in respect that when I arrived at the ground, you know, Bobby Wilson in his usual way, he looked as if he wanted to say something, but he wasn't saying it. And when I quizzed him, he kept saying, "What?" And is there something you want to tell me? No. But he just had this cheeky look in his face. The referee that day was a friend of his, Graham Tran, the late Graham Tran, from Kirkcaldy. And Graham says to me, he says, go and come into the away dressing room with me and just make on we're looking at the strips. But I want you to have a good smell of that atmosphere. You pulling my leg or what? And he says, no, didn't say nothing, just go in and smell that sort of ambience. So I went in and come back out again, and he says, well, what do you think? I says, I can smell stale vodka. And I think they'd had their night out the night before. Because it was, I think it was 4-0 after quarter of an hour.
That was their goalkeeper, Norman, that was smelling the drink, I think, wasn't it? Donnie, was the goalkeeper Norman or something like that? And he went in a night out on the Friday night. It was absolutely just a fella drink.
You never knew what.
I think it was a possibility. Maybe they thought this is their one big game of the season, so they were going to enjoy it. But they just, I think it slightly underestimated you know, how good County were at that time, with like Brian Grant, etc.
Very fine.
Am I right in saying that'll have done you no harm whatsoever, Donnie, in your application for getting into the Scottish League?
Well, we obviously applied, and we went around all the clubs and did all the homework that we had to do. We came up and looked and saw what we needed to do. But then we went down to play Forfar in the Scottish Cup, and we beat them. I think it was 4-0 on the Saturday, and on the Tuesday, Forfar proposed us for joining the league. So Cally Thistle got in the first vote, and we got in as second place. I didn't really expect to get in when I saw when I was down at Gallifrey and who was the other one? Oh, Elgin. But no, it was good. Big changes. Big changes.
What it gave was football up this end of the country, a real top end, and now with Cally Thistle and Ross County, football in the Highlands has, you know, got a complete framework through from kiddies at the start to playing in the top division in Scotland. It made such a difference to the framework for the game in this part of the world.
Right, for the benefit of you who have been paying attention and noticed that we are no longer sitting in the same positions as we were 2 minutes ago, we actually ran out of scheduled time, so we've reconvened, and with the delights of modern technology, I've managed to edit this so it all is one continuous video. Ha ha, says he. Donnie, you were touching on, we're talking about the fact that you know, the victories against St Cuthbert's and against Forfar Athletic in the Scottish Cup had done your chances, you know, no end of good for getting into the Scottish League. Take us back to that time and the thinking how it went.
Well, we did a lot of work. Fortunately, we had Miles Newton, who was still in the SFA at the time, so he was doing his best at that end, and we were getting in touch with everybody we knew in football. And we went down, Hector McLennan, the chairman, and myself, and to be honest, we got a bit of a fight when we got there, because there was a piper playing for Gallifrey as you go in and handing out leaflets, and Inverness had a big model of what was going to be their ground, and I had 2 or 3 slips of paper in my inside pocket of what we were going to say and do. But oh, it was good. We did a presentation, back up the train, hamburger roll. Her son was working at Abbey Moor, threw on some extra chips to us. So we got home, and lo and behold, you know, a few weeks later they had the full meetings, and we got voted on.
Yeah, Dave, what was the media's take at the time, Dave? Because I know from a personal point of view, and no disrespect to Inverness or Ross County, but just as a supporter, as it were, I was certainly of the mind that I couldn't see both clubs getting in. You know, it was going to be, and I thought maybe Inverness were in pole position given the commitment they'd made by obviously 2 clubs sacrificing over 100 years of history. What was the media take at the time?
Well, I think Ross County were always classed, and I think they still are. They've never really forgotten their roots, Martin. Ross County are a community club, and I think that speaks volumes for the area. And I mean, the Ross County fans come from places like, you know, Ullapool and further north up in Sutherland, all over. they come from Stornoway. Ross County fans come from all over. So it wasn't really a huge surprise to me, because I always had a great regard for Ross County. What surprised me possibly is, being a smaller town, a smaller club, that they've managed to do as well, if not better in some ways, than Cali Thistle did. Because they obviously, Cali Thistle were a merger of the two clubs, and I always thought that it was a bit problematical at the start, and if it hadn't been for a certain Jock MacDonald, I don't think Cali would ever have got, or Cali Thistle would ever have got into the Scottish League. But Jock was the man that pulled both clubs together magnificently. And the late lamented Jock MacDonald, what a man he was. He was the only man that had a seat at the Cali Stadium with his name on it, and a seat at the Ross County Stadium with his name on it. He really was a true legend.
Absolutely. Yeah, he liked coming to Dingwall because he could smoke in the boardroom.
With Morris.
I had a friend who heard the presentations at the time, and after the voting, I was in conversation with him, and he said that you know, the Ross County presentation was the most understated presentation of them all, which kind of reflects what you said, Donnie. But what he said was, every word that was said in the presentation was utterly believable. And I think that goes to the credibility of Ross County as a football club almost throughout their time. And that stuck with me, because it was a great day for the Highlands for that to happen. That, okay, the City Club in Inverness got in, good, well done, and they've gone on to do well. But to have another club within 20 miles within the Highlands also getting in told us something about the fact that the Highland football had a chance now of going through the door. You don't make it by getting elected to the Scottish League. You go through the door, and you then have to make your own history and your own reputation. And I think they've done that. And what always strikes me about Ross County, and get to visit occasionally now, and it's still that warmth of welcome when you come in the door. It's still that kind of, there's that feel to it that still has a touch of the Highland League about it. And I consider that to be a compliment, Donnie, not a dispassionate observation.
Yep, I think the whole Ross County thing has been inspirational, certainly to the likes of my club. You know, that we all like to model ourselves a wee bit on each other, so I do a bit of cherry picking, etc. And Donnie, I'm sure you'll agree that, you know, hospitality at Peterhead is well renowned throughout the Scottish League. Sometimes our defence is too hospitable as well, but that's another story. But you know, it's something we don't want to lose, because it's who and what we are, and you know, it's important to hold on to these values. I'd like to know what was the take of things as a player, Billy, because obviously Ross County, you know, started that first season. Was there any new additions to go into the Scottish League, or was it all the same guys that finished the previous season?
It was mostly the same squad. I think we signed maybe 2 or 3 boys, like Willie Farfee, Billy Herd, and Stevie Hutchison, the goalkeeper. But it was mostly the same team. So for us, it was, you know, as a player's point of view, it was really exciting. Obviously, it was a new challenge, but nothing really changed. You know, we still went and, you know, trained twice a week. We played on a Saturday. We travelled every second Saturday. So for us, it didn't really change much, apart from it was exciting. It was a new challenge, and maybe where we found probably we did pretty well. I think the first year, I think we finished 3rd. I'm not too sure. We were pretty good. I think we weren't far away from it. But I think, what was it, Donnie?
3 times 3rd in the league.
3rd, yeah. And I think what we found the difficult was, in the Highland League, we felt like maybe, you know, we were playing maybe 5 or 6 teams that we had to really perform, and the rest would probably, you know, we kind of felt we would beat them, you know, maybe, you know, in 3rd gear. And I don't mean that disrespectful, but we had 4 or 5. But in the Scottish League, every game was a tough game, and if you weren't up for it, every game you would get beat. So you had to be committed to every game, and that was difficult for us, because we had to learn. You know, even if you were top of the league and you were playing bottom, if you didn't perform, you would get beat, basically. But great times, really enjoyable.
Who are the characters, other than yourself, of course, Billy? Who are the characters in the dressing room at the time?
Oh, and our time, I think you've got to say Psycho, Robbie Williamson. Robbie's a fantastic character. You know, he was a lovable rogue. He's the kind of guy that would he would do anything for you, absolutely anything. You asked Robbie would run. Donnie would know that he would do anything. But to be honest with you, I think in our team, I think the majority of us were all characters. We all had our own thing. You know, a lot of tremendous players at the club that didn't maybe get the credit they were due. You know, there was maybe a few of us that got more credit than we should have got. Well, there were some really. Our defence never got any credit, but they were so solid. Some fantastic players. You know, Chrissy Somerville, Gary Campbell, Albert Robert, Scotty Lemon, Johnston Belshire, the whole lot. And I hope they're missing, but they were so good, so solid that gave some of the rest of us the base to go forward and play. So I think they didn't get the credit they were due. And
a lot of local guys as well, eh?
We were basically all a local team. Certainly when we won the Highland League, we were all within from Inverness. And Chrissy was the furthest north in Brora. And then, as I say, I think there was 3 guys from the Scottish League that we signed, but we were basically a totally local team, you know. So it was good because it builds a friendship. For me, half the battle is if you're playing with your mates and you've got a good team spirit. For me, if you don't have a team spirit in football, you've got a problem. But if you have a good group of guys that go on together, you've really got half a chance. Like, you know, a good chance.
Bobby Wilson.
Bobby, great guy. Bobby. When Bobby came up, he spoke to me. He's just a people person. He's just such a likable guy. You know, you can't but not like Bobby. He'd be a brilliant salesman. I would employ him as a kitchen salesman any day of the week. And he obviously knew his football, and you got respect from him. He played at a higher level. But we all know Bobby. Just a great guy to work with. And the other thing Bobby had was obviously Jesse helping him. But the other guy that was very important that I don't think gets much credit at the club or is not talked about is Don Cowie Senior. He was Bobby's assistant for years, and a fantastic guy, a guy I've got total respect for. Great footballer, lovely left foot in him. But as a person, if Don spoke to you, you listened and you had total respect for him. So to Bobby, Jesse, and Don, they were a fantastic team as managers and co-managers of it.
Donnie, what were the circumstances around Bobby getting the job in the first place? Was it Sandy Wallace? Was Sandy Wallace there?
No, we were. Excuse me. We'd gone amateur to protect the actual park, keep the park ourselves. We did a big fundraising thing. There was about 3 or 4 of us. Did a lottery and we did a lot of other things. And Morris, although he wasn't the chairman, he fell out with Johnny Buchanan, his brother-in-law. Johnny didn't have a big good spell because all his players were amateurs. We lost one of our best players, Hertz. He went back to amateurs, amateur, but then he played for Bewley and he signed for Inverness. But we went through to Devonville, Ross County. We were playing Devonville, and Mother said, "We're not going." He says, "We've got a meeting at King's Mills." So up to King's Mills, cup of tea, cup of coffee, and in walks Bobby and Jesse. So we sat down and spoke to them, and going back in the car, and Billy like this. Bobby said to him, Mother said to me, he says, "Well, that was good. Thanks for coming. Who would you give the job to, Bobby or Jesse?" and Jesse was a great servant to the club as well.
Yeah.
They still come to all the games, you know. Yeah, regulars.
A great character as well, Donnie, Jesse.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Bobby's he's in the stories. I mean, I quite often phone him and say, "Do this and that," you know. But no, he's.
So the whole thing obviously has grown arms and legs, and the advert to the Highland Youth Academy. Rod, you were in what? You had a role within that, yeah?
Yeah. I became the development manager in 2004. I was tooling along in school, doing wee bits of stuff outside in football, but still coaching national squads and enjoying it. In fact, Billy's Loon Scott was in one group, which was nice to see, and he played at St James's Park, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yeah.
So they had great experiences, these youngsters, and it was great to see Highland youngsters getting these. But I got a phone call from the then Director of Education, Bruce Robertson, to say they had this project that they were getting worried about because relationships were breaking down. Would I be interested in being seconded to try and get the project settled? So I got summoned to a meeting in Inverness, and it was clear at that time that relationships within the Highland Football Academy Trust, had three main parties: the Council, Inverness, Cally Thistle and Ross County, and for whatever reason relationships were breaking down and mutual trust had broken down. And the building project was kind of staggering along a wee bit. There were funding issues and one thing and another. So it seemed like a good idea at the time to accept the secondment offer. And so I went in as development manager. And the first big task was to get the building works finished and get the financial structures sorted. Then to make sure we had a facility that primarily the two main clubs, Ross County and Inverness, Cally Thistle, had use of, but to make it a focal point for football in the Highlands. And to that end, we employed a guy called Peter Budge, you may recall, who had been a manager at Wick Academy and was really an excellent youth coach. And Peter became the development officer, and between us we tramped the highways and byways promoting the game of football. We did all sorts of other things in terms of the wider use of the game. So for instance, if you look at the North Cally League now, to take it right back to the early part of our conversation, Martin, Orkney play in the North Cally League. Now that's a direct result of the work that went on in the noughties, when we were encouraging the island teams to look beyond their shores, because we felt it would help the game in their area. And then in 2010, Cally Thistle, I think that was the year Cally Thistle got promoted to the top division, and Ross County got to the Scottish Cup final, both after a shocking winter of weather. And I will maintain to my final breath that the existence of the indoor facility in Dingwall, where both clubs trained, gave them an incredible advantage as the season unfolded and for the respective successes. And if you look, for example, at the Scottish Cup semi-final between Celtic and Ross County ran the legs off Celtic that day, because Ross County were as fit as they could be. They did the whole winter maintaining fitness levels. And Derek Adams, on the road to it, had said that he would be, he was aware of the size of Hampden and legs would be an important thing. And I firmly believe that, and the stamina that Cally Thistle showed on the run-in to promotion, that both clubs had the advantage of the facility. And that was a great year for football in the Highlands. It's been superseded in some senses. Both clubs have been in the top division. Both clubs have won a national trophy now in the Scottish Cup and the League Cup. But I firmly believe that an essential building block in the area is that. And you look now at players like Gary Mackay-Stephen. He came through the Highland Football Academy. Don Cowie to some extent, he was very early. There's a lot of good players have come through it. And that's because there's a good facility and the clubs have made good use of it. So I think the Highland Football Academy should have been a model for all sorts of areas of the game. But there was a failure in the Scottish game, in my opinion, to take advantage of the government funding streams that were there at the time. And I think the Highlands gets great credit for doing what it did when it.
Certainly, I presume, Donnie, it's a well-used facility. Is it open? Is it used 7 days a week?
Yes, it certainly is. I mean, there's training, there's illness, go through, they play on it. They have a game in it, well, not in the North Cally now, but maybe next season. But no, it is a good facility, and as Rod said, it needed tightened up, and that's just what he did.
Yeah.
So,
I suppose there's always a danger. There's always a danger, and probably North of Scotland isn't any different. There's always a danger that the facilities always go to the bigger location. They always, and so a real coup for Ross County to have that there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering that in Inverness they have two top grade pitches plus an artificial pitch. up at Charleston. It's a two-centre thing, but the real jewel in the crown is the indoor pitch and the facilities beside it. That's what really made it different. And I think that the Highland clubs and Highland Council can rightly be proud of what that's done and continues to do for the game.
Yeah. Billy, I'm going to go back to you for a second. You had a one-season sabbatical at Elgin City. How did that come about?
Well, yeah, I didn't. You know, I didn't really want to go to Elgin, but it was kind of like a county. I'd been there that long, and I think we're in a negotiation, and I asked for some X amount, and it wasn't a lot of money, and the club wouldn't give me. I think Bobby felt that I was going to stay regardless of what we offered, and they never gave me it. So I decided, right, I'll go to Elgin. I went to Elgin, had an absolutely great time, and Bobby came back in and said, "Look, we made a mistake. Sorry, do you want to come back?" And I was always going to go back, but I had a fantastic time at Elgin.
Did you win a title? Did you win the title with Elgin?
Won the treble. Yep, won the treble there.
Who's the manager then?
Stevie Patterson.
Stevie.
Pelly, fantastic guy. You know, just he let you just go on and play. You know, he would give a team talk, and if he felt like he didn't need a team talk, I remember when he just came in and he says, "Right, okay, last week guys, you were really good. Same team. Let's just go out and do it again." And that was it. Go and play. We ended up winning 4-0. You know, he just kept it really simple.
Yeah, very laid back individual. That's for sure.
Totally. I could tell you some stories, but all good ones, by the way.
I had the good fortune of working with Pelly for Martin United, where your boy had a spell.
That's right.
And I just an absolute. You know, to be fair, he never let the club. There was so many stories going around. Pelly never let the club down once. His timekeeping was horrendous. So much so that we used to actually tell him the wrong times for meetings or bus departures, etc. We used to tell him 20 minutes beforehand or half an hour beforehand, and even then he struggled to meet the actual scheduled time. You know, an absolute gem of a guy.
Yeah, the other one I remember with Pelly was we signed when I was manager. Me and Hertz were joint manager. We signed. We've got 3 lads: Tony Lowe, Brian Goodfin, and Ali Ridgers. I think it was the goalkeeper. We had the 3 of them alone, and Pelly said to me, "Look, Billy, these are young lads. Whatever you do, I'm not wanting them drinking. I'm wanting them. They're professional, or they're professional footballers." And I remember we played Cove, and we were 3-0 down with 25 minutes to go. I think Bob Summers was the manager, and Hertz came on a sub and changed the game. He scored one, and we actually beat them 4-3 from we were second or third bottom of the league. And I remember going through Fochabers, and I was at the front of the bus, and I looked back, and all I could see was Brian Gilfin out at the top of the bus, you know, the wee window, out with a drum in the middle of Fochabers, and all I'm thinking was Stevie Patterson will be in the Gordon Arms. Seen him there, like, but he was a great guy, like, you know. I'm sure he would have understood after that result.
Absolutely. Dave, you maybe got one or two Pelly stories yourself?
But there's a couple of things I like to pick up on. Pelly is the most honest guy met in football. I think he was brilliant for the game, and I think he would make a wonderful scout, Pelly. I think he'd be a great scout, and I'll predict this. His nephew is the director of football at Brighton and Hove Albion, and I would imagine Kyle McCauley, his nephew, at some point will be onto his uncle to say, "Have a look for me up north and see if he can spot a player," because Pelly could spot a player. A couple of other things I'll pick up on. The North Cally League. I know the little village of Scowrie have applied to join the North Cally League, and that would extend its reach even further, way up into northwest Sutherland. I think that would be a great thing. And Billy mentioned one of his former teammates. I was driving through Rod Houston country one night about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, quietly going through Golspie, and all of a sudden this blue flashing light came from behind me, and Nina stopped me. I got out, the policeman got out, and it was PC Scott Lemon. He says, "Dave, I didn't wind up yet." I thought, "What?" You know, my heart was beating. He said, "Dave, drive on."
Couple of points.
No shortage of characters, eh?
Couple of points there. Kyle McCauley played for North of Scotland Schools with great distinction, and actually played in Scottish Schools development squads. He was a really promising player. I'm delighted to hear he's still in the game and doing a job of great responsibility, Dave.
Yep.
I think I'll keep another closer eye on Brighton and Hove Albion now for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you have read Pelly's biography. It was posted, I think, by Frank Gilfeather.
Yep.
I ended up in tears reading the last chapter, which was the bearing of his soul. You know, there was quite a bearing of the soul there about him, and it was. You talked about him being honest, Dave. There was a candor, there was a candid nature about that reduced me to tears, thinking, you know, what a good guy, you know, and how he did. And I know I'm not the only reader of that book. I've talked to one or two people in the game who know him and ended up with the same reaction. So you're right about his honesty in spades.
Yep, and an absolute gentleman, absolutely gentleman. His contact list was unbelievable. You know, all these sheets and sheets and sheets of paper contacts, and he knew somebody just about everywhere. You know, his knowledge of the game is phenomenal, and he's a big loss to the game, I would say. A big loss to the game.
Yeah.
But he never once let Formartine United down. Not the once. Talking of managers with character, obviously Donnie, Ross County seemed to pick him because obviously you had Neil Cooper, the great late Neil Cooper, for a spell as well. I certainly remember from my time running up and down the line, especially as a senior assistant as it became, I think there was a couple of close calls where I almost had to dodge out the way because you'd throw that bunnet with a fair bit of gusto when things weren't good. And he seemed to think because he knew you might sort of give him the benefit of doubt and overrule the referee, but also that wasn't going to be happening. So you must have some great stories with Neil.
No, we've too many to tell, I think, and you're right. We used to pick him up in the lay-by just before the Keswick Bridge, and we used to drop him off in a different place on his way home. But he lives in Keswick, and came in the morning, and the late bus driver, Tony Fraser, his wife was one of these country western fans, and we'd have a tape on, and Neil would come on the bus, and he'd say, "What's this on?" And he'd have a bag with him, and there'd be 2 or 3 guts and blood and videos to show us. And they said, "Well, on the way home, if we get beat, Daniel O'Donnell's going back on." I'm going to ask Billy who his biggest signing was, but
who Neil Cooper's biggest signing would have to be Mark Hateley, wouldn't it?
Yes, Mark Hateley.
He signed the year after I left. He signed. I just missed him. I would have loved to have been there when he was there. Like the time I was there, the last season with John Clark, Dundee United scored Barcelona. John Hewitt played with us for 3 or 4 games. Donnie Craney, Tommy Callaghan, some really good players. It was great to actually, in the to play with some of these guys that had been Alec Taylor, Nicky Walker, these sort of guys.
Donnie Lennon still has a great word for Ross County.
Yeah, he was there as well, wasn't he?
Aye.
Great times.
He told me Neil was terrible paperwork wise. He'd come with a bit of paper and it'd have some figures and a name on it, and this we should make a contract out of that. And this Mark Hateley. And he played. I signed him for a month, and he played at Stirling Albion, and we got beat. He never got a kick at the ball. We then went to Alloa, and he played, and he never got a kick at the ball. It was only 2 games he played. He got injured at Alloa, but he was in the dressing room. He was 6'10", covered suntan from head to toe. Stirling Albion were quite upset when we went down there because that was his first game. Normally they would have 4 press on duty because when they knew Hateley was coming, the crowd was increased, and they had about 20. I think he said to me 21 press people there at the game, all needing a cup of tea and a sausage roll.
Yeah, he probably added a few onto the crowd as well, out of it.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
yes.
definitely.
But that's what I said to to them at the time. I says, Neil, could you not have kept them for a home game? And we would have got the benefit of the crowd.
Finances and managers didn't tend to go hand in hand, do they?
No. Aye.
Dave, anything you'd like to add before we close up for the night?
I remember there's lots of stories I could tell you about Tatty, but one funny was we were playing golf. I was about to play golf with them at Duff House Royal, my own golf course one day. We were staying overnight at the Springs, the Banff Springs Hotel for a couple of nights. And the idea was we'd have a game at Duff House Royal with them, and then we went and played Macduff at Royal Tarlaire. So we're playing Tarlaire, and there's a 3-ball. There's myself, there's Neil Cooper, and there's Tony Bullock, the big goalkeeper. And we come to a famous hole called the Clivet, which is at the top of a hill, and the green is way, way down, like a saucer, like the famous hole at Hopeman. You're up high and you're aiming way down. Donnie Bullock, he'd a funny turn. He says, "Oh, I've got vertigo. I can't do this." So Neil said, "Yeah, be a man. Come on, play your shot." He said, "Oh, I can't do it. Vertigo. I can't look down there." So Bullock sat on the tee, and we went all the way down. I don't know, 150 feet, and we climbed all the way back our drives, and Bullock met us at the next green, and Tatty was not at all happy as goalkeeper whatsoever. It wasn't much to a man, but what a great man Neil Cooper was. He was one of the best, an absolute character, and God rest his soul.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right, gentlemen, I'm going to draw things to a close now. Thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, this has been a first-time experience for a lot of us. It's great to see you all in good health, I have to say. Long may that continue. So thanks again to Rod Houston, Donnie MacBean, and Billy Ferries. Sincere apologies to Fiona MacBean. And special thanks to fellow Rothisloon, Dave Edwards. Next time, folks, we hope to be joined by both sides of the Buchan Derby and an ex-referee as well, who has had a foot in both camps. Thank you very much for watching.